The herpes virus is one of my greatest spiritual teachers because it taught me about holding internalized toxic shame within and how much it was robbing me of my life.
Rebecca Antonucci, who's an entrepreneur, nervous system educator, fellow podcast host and radical truth teller, today on the Resource Podcast.
So I went and got a boyfriend at age 19. He assaulted me, punched me in my head, knocked me unconscious. So that really shaped the disordered eating journey. Maybe if I change my body so I look a certain way, people won't try and hurt me.
And you ended up doing fitness competitions.
The validation, it was an addiction. I would get it, it'd feel great, but it was momentary. So I need it again. Self-love was really what I was searching for. And the day would come, I'd feel empty. And so then I'd set a new goal, a bigger goal. And there's only so much weight you can lose. And there's only so many competitions you can do before you're trying the same thing and hoping for a different result, and the result doesn't come.
She thought success would fix her body, her brand, her business, and instead it left her in $100,000 worth of debt and still searching. Everything changed when she faced the shame she'd been avoiding, and now she travels the world teaching the principles that rebuild her own life. Awareness before choice, repair after rupture, and the power of never abandoning yourself again.
Welcome to the Resource Podcast, Rebecca Antonucci.
Oh, Rebecca Antonucci is just so happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, pleasure. And it's exciting that we made it happen. You've been traveling all over the world. You've been speaking with so many people. You've been helping lots of people. You've been making waves. You've been, helping other people with shame. You've been doing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. And it's nice to have you in the studio here today.
I know. They say when you do feminine embodiment work that nothing has to change for everything to change. And now that I'm back in Perth, I came back for my birthday. Nothing has changed, but everything has changed. I've had the best time.
Yeah. Isn't that really interesting? And it's funny because in the studio that we're recording in now, you've been like a precious commodity. You've been in here a few times. So you might see Beck a few times in the studio, because I think as well, what is so great about you is you can talk on so many different things, so many different subjects, mm-hmm. and you can speak to so many different people. Mm-hmm. So there's a part of me that would have in the past gone, I hope it's going to, you want it to be different. You want it to be this, you want it to be that. But I know from what I know about you, I know how much you can speak to so many different things. Mm-hmm. And that excites me because there's more people who are going to be able to be impacted by the work that you do.
Yeah, do you know what? I was even personally feeling that about my own journey 2.5 years ago. I felt like my message was very stale and I could really only speak about a few things because I really was only embodied in a few things. Like years ago, you would have known me because of the herpes conversation. And so I was talking a lot about that online because it was the only breakthrough that I was truly embodied in. And I don't believe as someone that's online, you can really talk about where embodiment lacks. And since going out and really claiming my life and doing so much training around all parts, relationship, intimacy, nervous system, embodiment, wealth, finance, business, sexual shame, trauma, now that I've expanded in all of those areas, the range of my message has widened so much and I love it.
Yeah. And that's so true. And it's interesting how as humans, as women, as people, you have a tendency that you can't speak on things unless you've got to the other side, unless you've mm-hmm. succeeded. I've definitely been that before. Mm-hmm. And like you said, you hadn't necessarily had a breakthrough in other things, but I could imagine that a catalyst for a lot of your breakthroughs is when you really get to the depths of shame and it kind of lets the lever go on a lot of other things that you've been holding on to. Did you find that with when you had that's a big, like a big secret to keep. You are like no one else who is able to share that, because once you don't give a fuck about that, what else are you holding on to in life? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I know that this podcast isn't about the herpes virus, but that was such a huge part of my personal journey and such an incredible teacher. I say the herpes virus is one of my greatest spiritual teachers of my life because it taught me about holding shame, internalized toxic shame within, and how much space that took up and how much it was robbing me of my life, my fulfillment, my joy, my confidence, my self-worth, intimacy, relationships, my voice, being authentic. It taught me about what it's like when a person holds internalized shame within that no one else cares about. It's so funny. Once I had my breakthrough, no one cared. I even said to my best friend when I had the breakthrough, I was like, no one really cares. She's like, no one does care. I'm like, everyone was meant to care. She's like, well, we care because we love you, but it's not a big deal. But the amount of masks, the different behaviors that I would go out and do to try and get you to like me, because I thought if you knew the truth, then you would reject me. That entire process that lasted 7 years. What an experience for me to move through and feel the freedom, the felt sense. That's embodiment, right? The felt, that's nervous system work. I felt so terrified, trapped, safe, scared, small. And then I broke free from this internal cage that lived within me that I had the key to the entire time. Once I step out, oh my God, the relaxation in my body to just be myself. Like, it doesn't matter what the vehicle is, herpes, money, shame, relationship, whatever it is, because we all have something. That experience is life-changing forever for me. I'll never hold anything in. I'll never harbor anything inside in shame. I'll always share it, and I always know if I'm going through something, someone else, millions of people are moving through this too. I just get to go and find the person with the resources who knows how to break through it, and then I can learn and follow those same steps and experience breakthrough myself, and then I can teach it to others. What a gift.
100%. Oof. And why I asked to have you on for so many reasons is, working in the mining industry, going up and delivering around mental health, suicide prevention. The biggest thing is, being a lived experience speaker like yourself, sharing and being vulnerable about your own experiences really helps open up other people to what they've experienced. And one of the things that I share is, what is it that you're holding on to that you feel like you can't forgive yourself for, that you don't, deserve forgiveness for, or you can't forgive somebody else for. And I know that a lot of that comes down to shame. And, when it comes to the mining industry being male dominated, the conversation isn't necessarily at that point where they're able to do a lot of embodiment work. They might not be at that stage as yet. They're still trying to figure out why are they feeling angry? Why are they feeling let down? Why are they feeling like they're not worthy of, but they can't put those words on it. And so your message relays and relates to so many people. It doesn't matter. Everybody, like you said, is carrying shame for something. And that's a consistent theme when we're growing up, is once you see somebody let go of something that's happened to them or, when they were younger, it's like you can just see them feel lighter. For you, I know you did work with, Alexi Panos and Preston Smiles around working through that breakthrough. I know that part of that is you can't make a breakthrough unless you're ready and you have to do the work. What was it for you, I suppose, that made you realize that you needed to make a change? What were you feeling? What did life look like for you to go and seek out the help from they're great coaches, but they don't fuck around either. You know what I mean? You're going to be put through fire sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, they're still my teachers now 8 years later. That's why I've been traveling back and forwards to Austin, Texas to continue training with them. And I believe they're two of the greatest philanthropists of this age, my opinion. But I know we speak a lot about potential. Oh, I want to live out my potential. And so I don't believe in potential anymore. I believe in capacity and availability. But at the time, I felt powerful. I knew that there was a power within me. I thought that I had so much potential and so much fire, but my life kind of looked like a shambles. I was in over $100,000 of debt. I knew I couldn't tell people the truth. I had this thing when it was shame around herpes. I had this thing that physically wasn't anywhere on my body, but this alarm that was in the back of my mind all day long saying, no one will love you, no one will choose you, you have herpes. And it was just like, I just wanted that voice to shut up. And so if I'd be talking to you, in the back of my mind, I'd think if Becky really knew the truth, she wouldn't be a friend. Or I'd be chatting to a guy. If he really knew the truth, he wouldn't be taking you on a date right now. And that felt like, oh my God, there's something inherently wrong about me and bad. And because of this thing, I'm never going to find my way in the world. And I was trying lots of, we're only ever playing one of two games, the inside out or the outside in. The outside in says if Becky approves of Rebecca, then Rebecca's okay. If Rebecca goes and gets the $1 million coaching business, Rebecca is okay. If she has the Instagram body, then she's okay. But the thing about that is my okayness is predicated based on the external world telling me I'm okay. Inside out game says I create and source my own okayness. So if Becky likes me, great. And if she loves this podcast, amazing. But if at the end of it she says that wasn't really how I wanted it to go, I can feel disappointed, but I'm still okay. I can get the $1 million business, but I'm okay without it. I can have the body, but I still love myself, even if that's not there. And so it doesn't mean that we don't strive for external things, but it starts internal. And so that was the game that I had to start to play, because I'd gone and tried for all the externals, the boyfriend, the money, the business. And then as I was trying so hard, and somehow my life still looked like a bit of a shit show. I was like, how am I so capable? And I can barely pay my rent on Friday. I was like looking for dollar coins under my couch to put $1 of fuel in my Jeep to go to Pilates to earn $75 to pay my rent that I was behind on. And I just thought, how am I so powerful? And my life is falling to pieces.
Yeah.
And that's when I knew I know you said, some of these men in the communities that you're talking about don't have the resources. It's like, how do I feel? How do I feel about my life? What is wrong? And what's the one thing in my way? And if I was to answer all of those questions, just like basic questions, you don't need to know about embodiment, nervous system. It's like, what is wrong? I'm in over $100,000 of debt. What is wrong? I can't tell the truth to men and I really want a partner, but no one's actually going to know the true me because I don't think he'll accept me. What's in the way? For me, it was the herpes virus. And that's when it was like, oh, fuck. I've got to stop trying for all the other things and go straight to that thing. And so I went to Preston. I was like, you have got to help me.
And what did he say?
He said, if you're going to do the work, we'll strap in and it will, it can't not happen if you're willing to go at it for as long as it'll take. This isn't word verbatim, but he was like, I'll get in the arena with you. But we got to, it's easy to sit on the sidelines of your life and talk about all these great things that you want to do.
That accountability.
I know. It's,
You're like, fuck you.
It reminds me of I was saying this to one of the women in my mastermind the other day. It's like, I love watching the UFC. And when I watch the UFC, I'm screaming at the screen. Like, if I was him, I'd be doing this and I'd be doing that. And all my ex-boyfriends have been like, bitch, you can't fight. Shut up. It's easy to be the spectator watching the game, watching the fighter and saying all the things that you would do. But the person that actually puts themselves in the arena, that's embodiment. Yeah. That's somatic work. That's like being in the fire of life. And so Preston basically said, if you're willing to get off the sidelines of your life, I will step into the arena with you and we will figure it out for as long as it takes for it to be figured out. Because like you said, you can't force a breakthrough. It can't be like, make my client have my breakthrough tomorrow. Make me have my breakthrough tomorrow. It'll happen in whatever timeline it does. But if you're willing to get in the arena and never get out of it again, there's no way for it to not happen.
Yeah, 100%. And do you think it's vital to have that support around you of somebody who's going to be like, I've got you, I've got your hand? Or is it purely an inside job and it was just a byproduct that you had the right people, you had people around you?
Oh my God, no way. I could not do it without a village of people. They say it takes a village to raise a baby. It takes a village for fill in the blank. I think it takes a village for a woman as well, or for any person.
Yeah.
Community support, friendship, mentorship, someone that has already done the hard thing, a teacher, a mentor, a guide, a leader, a best friend, a lover, someone to say, I believe in you when you forget, that holds the vision when you're hurt, because when you get in the fire, you get knocked down a ton of times.
Yeah, no doubt.
When our nervous system, when the body says, when you get knocked down, the body's going to have a response. And if the body thinks I'm not safe, then the body's going to want to try and find safety, which can often be get out of the arena. And so that's when we have people around us that support us to self-source that safety and remind us, like, you're in the arena for a reason. Don't leave. Like, now's the time that you're building the capacity for the greater life. Hold while it's hard. Whereas before I'd be like, oh, it's hard, run. Oh, it's hard, run. But with mentorship and leadership and someone that can, if they believe in your vision, like I would never enroll into someone's vision if I was like, this is a load of shit.
Yeah.
But if I believe in it, my friends, my family, my teachers believe in it, when I'm knocked down, they can remind me of that as they're calling me forward to create, to like hold the hardness of the breakdown.
Yeah. And in those really hard moments, because I know you've had, social media is fucking horrible and people can be horrible. And I know, and I've been there, I've watched it, and, I've known you for a little while now and watching you on the journey. You don't get it right all the time as human beings, right? And you got to start. And, but some of the time you fire up so much in people because people see something that they're missing in themselves. The reason I know this is because it happened with me. Like watching somebody else be so unapologetic and free from shame and, you know, like the perception of not giving a fuck, even though I knew that you were going through it.
Yeah.
I was like, I want that. And it really made me see what I wasn't doing and where I was lacking, you know, what am I feeling ashamed for? And so I know that you've been in the firing line with lots of people and lots of things.
Mm-hmm.
How in those moments when you're like, maybe it's a friend or maybe it's somebody that you knew or, you know, people that you don't know, it doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? Like words, yep, can be shitty. For friends or family members or people that you thought you trusted or, you know, what has been, I suppose, the hardest moment in your breakthrough to realize that not everybody's going to come along for the journey? How have you dealt with that?
Do you know what? I would say 6 years ago when I started sharing really authentically, I can still remember certain people who have written me notes online, not strangers, but people that I cared for who had written me notes or emails or private messages saying, I really am concerned about the direction that you're going with your messaging. And, you know, and it felt like it was coming from a genuine place, but I had to decide in that moment. They didn't know what it was like for me to live in the cage and live in pain and live in fear. And I'd spent up until 31 curating my entire life to try and get the rest of the world to approve of me. And that way was not working. What's it? They say the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, just thinking it's going to work out another way. I'd already tried that. I'll be someone else so that you approve of me. And that wasn't working. So I decided the path of authenticity was it. And one of my teachers would speak about the awkward phase, that everyone wants to skip it, of when you're sharing your truth online and stepping into public speaking or content creation, that everyone wants to be an expert and they already want the 1 million followers and all the downloads, but you get to go through the awkward, sticky phase where you're like, I look back at things that I've written on the internet and I'm like, what was I thinking? Like, who was
that?
Did I think that was a good idea? Yes, I did.
Who let me do that? No.
But I have to connect with that was true for that version of me at that time. And I was connected to the bigger vision, which is, you know, me now. That 6 years ago, the people who doubted me are people who 6 years later are saying, how did you do it? Can you help me? And so I had to remind myself, I've already curated my life for other people. That didn't work. My truth might feel awkward, uncomfortable, and sticky right now, and how I'm communicating it. I've never spoke like this in the online world before. It's probably not coming across perfect or eloquent or the right way as if there is one, but I know what the vision is. And I'm willing to walk through the fire as I become the woman I know that I deserve to be. And that is me living out my life authentically and inspiring others to do the same, no matter what people say, as long as the intention is pure. And then, like I said, 6 years later, people who doubted me are saying, can you help me? And so this is 6 years later. Imagine in 6 years from now, it's just going to grow and grow and grow and grow. So that shows me other people's doubts. That's their own projections. That's their own internal reflections of their experience of me. No one knows what I'm actually going through. I don't know what you're going through. And no one else, it's not up to you to hold my vision unless I ask you to. So strangers on the internet don't know what I'm stepping into. So they're seeing through their finite lens. But I knew the bigger vision that was calling me. And I said, no matter what, I will not betray myself again. So you can doubt me, but I'll keep going.
But good luck to you, sir. Good luck to you, ma'am. I love that. And it's the biggest thing I think I've learned about leadership is the doing. It's in the doing. You can't tell someone, you can't drag somebody along. Being a great leader like yourself is being that and showing people what it's like, and they can come along on the journey or not, you know. And so thank you on behalf of people who are, you know, need that. And I've definitely needed it. A part of your journey and watching your journey, I've needed to watch you through that. So you have that in being on a public arena that you have no idea, you know what I mean, how you're helping people. But going back to, you know, we get to see you now and we get to see who Becky is now. And you speak about 6 years ago before the vulnerability, you know, you spoke about what life looked like a little bit, but what was like upbringing like for Beck? You talk about body image, you talked about having the perfect body and the perception. And quite honestly, I think Perth, you know, the world is quite brutal. WA, Australia, WA and Perth, I find in the world can be really everybody's judging each other a lot more than others, like I find. Maybe I haven't gone out into too many other places, but I find everybody's worried about perception more so than other places that I've been. And you grew up here and you went to school here, and what was it like? What did life look like? And what were the hardest moments that kind of pushed and shaped you to be Beck and to feel that pressure to have everything perfect?
Yeah, I mean, I had a really cute childhood. So I have the two cutest parents. My sister was my best friend. So up until age 12, 0 capital T traumas and just the most cute upbringing. I would give it to my own children. Oh my God. Except for dad's limiting beliefs around money. Just the cutest childhood ever. Very safe, very protected, very loved. Just so loved by parents that just weren't wealthy by any means, but gave us so much, and just a beautiful, beautiful childhood. Then I went to a prestige all-girls school in Perth, Western Australia, and my best friend decided one day that she didn't want to be friends with me, and she actually we met up a few weeks ago, and she told me a piece of the story that I didn't know. The popular girls that she ended up going with turned around and said to her, "You can sit with us, but you can't bring Beck." And so in that moment, popularity is the pinnacle of success, but especially in a prestige private girls' school.
It's brutal in private, like in private schools and in girls' schools. Like, it's tough.
Brutal, the worst 5 years of my whole life. But she decided, instead of just breaking up with me and saying, I'm going to go sit with the popular girls and sayonara, she didn't want to have that conversation, and she dehumanized me. So she absolutely verbally assaulted me every single day and enrolled the entire group of them too. And so I just felt so isolated, rejected, hurt, harmed, screamed at every single day for being an awful, disgusting, ugly, rank young girl.
Rank. The word rank.
Oh, even now I still,
Yeah.
5 years of having that word screamed at you, and I'm, 14, 15, 16, 17. These are pivotal developmental years. I was on every sport team so that I wouldn't sit alone. I saw them as wealthy and beautiful and popular, and was left wondering, what is it about me that makes me so bad? Like, why am I disgusting? I didn't know anything about an internal narrative. I didn't know anything about the subconscious mind. So as they're screaming these things at me, I was very studious. I'd never go up on the stage at assembly when my name got called. Like, part of me would die inside, like, please don't get an award, please don't get an award, please don't get an award, because they just scream at me. And I'm a 15, 16-year-old girl thinking, what about me is so disgusting? Maybe I am. Maybe I am disgusting. Maybe I am rank. And so that really shaped me. And then I left. I talk a lot about the nervous system and sourcing safety. Because they were all girls, I thought maybe then men would be safe. So I went and got a boyfriend at 17, my first boyfriend. And at age 19, he assaulted me with a closed fist, punched me in my head, knocked me unconscious. And so I'm 19 years old, and I've attempted to take my life when I was bullied. Now I'm physically assaulted by my first boyfriend, and I was left thinking, God, I must be so bad, and that I'm not safe anywhere in the world, because girls will emotionally harm me, and then I'm physically at risk. And my boyfriend, who I love so much, physically assaulted me, and now I'm left feeling like I'm the bad person. And so that really shaped the disordered eating journey, because I thought, I need to go and find safety, and maybe if I change my body so I look a certain way, people won't try and hurt me. But because I am a very attractive woman, when I changed my body, when you're 19, your body responds to diets pretty quickly. Yeah. I look like a little sports model running around town, and I just got so much attention, so much validation, so many compliments. For the first time in my life, I felt so accepted and praised and validated and popular, and all the things that I was not for so many years, that started the disordered eating journey, which lasted for over a decade.
And you ended up doing fitness competitions as well, which I know exacerbates. We met each other through F45,
yes.
Which, like any gym, depending on who is delivering like the meal plans and things like that, F45 at that time was delivering a 1,200 calorie diet. So I remember, I'm supposed to implement this to people. 1,200 calories ain't enough. And then watching people go through fitness competitions, and you need a good coach for that. But what comes from doing fitness competitions, if you've already disordered eating, can be exacerbate that journey as well. But then you get praise, because the whole concept of doing a fitness competition is that who is the best looking or has the least amount of fat. So even that would have made it worse, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was the validation felt so safe, and I didn't know it was safety. So it felt really good. I was like, oh my God, all these people giving me compliments. I've never been given this amount of compliments before. And I've never been a drug addict, but I'd say you get a hit of a drug and then they need it again. So for me, the validation, it was an addiction. I would get it, it'd feel great, but it was momentary. So I need it again. And so then I'd set a new goal. Oh, I'm going to do this sports modeling competition. I'm going to do this photo shoot. I'm going to do this thing. And then when the day would come, and I believed that the day would come and I'd feel a certain way. Self-love was really what I was searching for. And the day would come and I'd feel empty. And so then I'd set a new goal, a bigger goal. And there's only so much weight you can lose. And there's only so many competitions you can do before, again, you're trying the same thing and hoping for a different result and the result doesn't come.
Yeah. And then you went down a path as well where I remember now, I was like, shit, we did a photo shoot together. Remember for your iconic, for your brand.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah. I've completely forgot about that. And then so, you went down the path. I know that you said you were in debt from that. I know it's through business. What made you really wanted to give it was sustainable activewear. And at that point, that was even a hard path to go down because large companies weren't doing it. You couldn't get it pumped out, easily somewhere. Now, the idea is to be a small business in that is really challenging, but you were one of the first to create that sustainable brand. What was the driver to be an entrepreneur, to provide that for someone, to stick to a value of making it sustainable? Why was that important to you? And did you learn through, I suppose, those lessons that led you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'd found personal development at age 25 because I realized the herpes virus had hit and I wanted help, and disordered eating was basically consuming my whole life. And I've always hated being told what to do. So I think I realized that if I want to succeed in this life, getting your JOB might not be the path for me. And in personal development, I'd met so many amazing people that were just doing amazing things. And I knew that every great entrepreneur had a coach. And I loved fitness, but I knew that I wasn't going to be a personal trainer forever. And I just had this dream of starting my own activewear. And I tried many times, failed many times, moved to Bali, ran out of money, come back, started again, saved up again. And by the time we connected, the reason was just I had this internal feeling that I needed to create one. Mm-hmm. And once I say I'm going to do something, I have to see it through all the way to the end. And this was a dream that I would be so disappointed in myself if I had not fulfilled it and given it a really good hard crack. And why it was sustainable, I think, to be totally transparent, I was looking for a gap in the market.
Yeah.
So sustainability wasn't like, oh my God, I'm so passionate about sustainability. I believe that we all have a certain thing that we get to be passionate about. But when I looked at the activewear industry, I just realized that that was a gap that was missing. What would make my activewear any different to Lorna Jane, Lululemon? And sustainability at the time was a piece.
And what did you learn about yourself in that? Because entrepreneurship is tough, and especially when it's like you're making things that it's not just, coaching now where you can stop and start if you wanted to. It's people that are there and you're selling a service. Mm-hmm. Whereas with clothing, you've got to have collateral. You've got to have all the things that are printed. You've got to have. So what did you learn about that, about yourself in business from having that?
I learned that selling from scarcity, even if you have a great brand, is going to send the energetic of scarcity all throughout your business. Like, she was a beautiful product. Women loved her. Mm-hmm. The branding was amazing. The photography was amazing. And I used to sit there and think, what is wrong? Why will this not sell? Mm-hmm. Because the feedback was great, but she was the path of resistance, and she wasn't meant to be when I say she, the brand wasn't meant to be here forever. And I learned a lot. I was actually in a business partnership, and that went south. But the way in which we met, my intuition knew, like, he was giving me a big cash flow capital injection to go into partnership together. And when he offered me the money, I was kind of down and out and needed it. And so when he offered me this handwritten check for, $60,000 that I didn't have, there was a part of my intuition that said, Rebecca, this is going to go south fast. Mm. But the other part of me that was like, this guy's giving you 60 grand, don't say no. And so I was like, okay, let's just see what happens. And so to always listen to my intuition and to never run a business from scarcity were the two main pillars and points. And because if it was coming from a different energy, I think it wasn't ever going to be a Lorna Jane. It could have been a lovely multiple six-figure little business.
Yeah. So you've worked with so many people now, and I
Yes.
think because of your journey, and this is the way that it always ends up being, is because of your journey and the experiences that you've had. Like we said at the beginning, you resonate with a lot of people, so it gives you the ability to talk about shame, because everybody's got it in a different way or capacity about something in their life. You would have had thousands of conversations with people, and I can imagine that'd be something that comes up often, all of the time. What's the most consistent thing that comes up for people that's a blind spot for others and was a blind spot for you?
Fear of being themselves in the world and constantly walking around changing who they are in hope that pretending once they put the mask on will be the thing that gets them the safety, the approval, the acceptance, the partner. And so just a deep felt sense of there's something inherently wrong with me, something that I need to change, and a lack of ownership around those things, and a fear of speaking their truth and using their voice.
Can you think back to a time or maybe a conversation you've had with a student around what it looks like day to day when you're not being yourself, or what maybe a story of somebody sharing something with you, of maybe someone who's listening right now could just put it at a point in their life and go, oh shit, I didn't realize that was me not being myself.
Yeah, not setting boundaries.
Yep.
Not asking for what we want. Getting a coffee that's lukewarm and you wanted it to be hot, and not turning to the barista and saying, hey, would you mind remaking this for me? It's just a bit cold. Getting a salad and having some tomatoes on it and you don't actually want the tomatoes, and turning to the waiter and saying, excuse me, would you mind just remaking this salad for me without the tomatoes? So from simple things like that, like my friends always laugh. We'll be out at a restaurant and I'll be like, I love sparkling water in a wine glass. So the waiter will go off and get a wine glass and ice. They'll serve me sparkling water like it's a champagne. Everyone will be like, Rebecca, do you have to? I'm like, yeah, I want my needs to be met.
That's what I'd like.
Yeah. Or I'll go to the ice cream store. You know how they get the ice cream from the bottom, but they forget all the good stuff on top? Be like, can you get that piece of honeycomb and that little bit of chocolate? I practice when I hear an internal voice say that thing, I'm always in the practice of, okay, can I say it? Or my CFO called me yesterday at a really inconvenient time, and talking about money, now that I'm growing quite a lot, the money conversations are getting bigger and bigger. And he said, hey, do you have a spare 10 minutes? And I said, yeah, I did technically have a spare 10 minutes. And he had a pretty serious conversation with me that went for 27 minutes just before a client. So on the client call, I was like, I have now got to drop into absolute presence because my brain is thinking about him. So straight after the call, I sent him a text, do you have a spare few minutes? He calls me. I said, we can't be having conversations like that. I don't want to build resentment and not enjoy this work environment and the way that we work together. But that doesn't work for me, the way that we did it. And so just noticing when things come up so that I have the courage, so that you have the courage to communicate that thing, so I don't hold resentment and I don't betray myself. And I think that's really what people are wanting. They want to be able to feel and connect to their own truth, hear it, and then have the courage to communicate it. And that's what I think the work really is, creating safety to be yourself in the world. Being yourself means CFO calls you and you say, hey, that doesn't work for me. Versus a past version of me would be like, don't tell him. And then in 3 weeks' time, he does something again, little niggle, and I don't tell him. And then all of this resentment builds, and then the relationship ends up breaking down.
And that's the thing, and that's something that I've learned, and is it's a byproduct sometimes of when you're in business with somebody where you have to speak up, and it's not something where you go, I want to learn how to speak up, but you realise there's times where you're not, or there's times where you did and it felt good.
Yeah.
How do you navigate, if men were to, this is how I feel.
Yes.
If men were to speak their boundary, it's ain't no big thing. It's being assertive.
Yeah.
Sometimes if a woman speaks it, you're being a bitch. Stop being a bitch. Stop being needy. Stop being so fucking much. How do you navigate that? Or are you just purely at a state where you're like, I don't give a shit?
Oh, me personally?
Yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah. Have you always been I don't care, or was there a part of your journey where you were starting to speak your boundaries, where you were like, oh, I feel like a bitch, or I feel like this is going to be perceived? I know that there's 3 different parts of the journey, or many parts, where you're like, you're not doing it, or you're probably unaware of that you're not doing it. Then there's the awkward bit, the hard bit, and then there's you doing it without even thinking about it. In that time, how did you practice it, even though you might have, been perceived as being a bitch? What is Untapped? What made you start that, and what is it that you do, and what is it that you help people with?
When we go in and help clients around whatever problems they're having, it's typically a performance issue. The performance comes as a result of the system, right? And people interact with the system. So in a lot of respects, it's not a technical solution, it's a human solution that's lacking. And that is the work that we do in Untapped, where everyone is treated as an individual, and what coaching they're going to need depends on their own experiences. The idea at the time with Untapped would be to provide leadership training, coaching. So Untapped for me was about untapping people's potential, investing in people, like the people who join our business, the podcast, the undergrads. If we're able to do that, we should do it. Something that's always stuck with me, and it's one of our values at Untapped. People go where they are wanted, and they stay where they are appreciated. If you can create an environment where people want to be part of that, and then you value them and appreciate them, then you've got a great platform for whatever it is you want to achieve. So that's Untapped in a nutshell.
How did you practice it, even though you might have, been perceived as being a bitch?
Yeah, I love the concept awareness precedes choice. So the choice is the decisions that we're making in every moment, right? And so if I want to change how I experience my life, we get to start making new choices. How do we do that? We need awareness first. So for me, introspection and reflection is a really incredible tool. So when I think about the cost of not using my voice, the self-betrayal and the hurt that I feel when I'm like, oh, I felt that, but I didn't say that, that hurts me. But also then the impact of that is it hurts someone else as well. Like thinking about a breakdown in a relationship. I had a partner that enjoyed drinking. I don't. So he would go through a drive-through and get a 4-pack. And in that moment, I'd think, I know I don't drink, but I would love if he came out with a sparkling water for me and said, baby, I know you don't drink, but here's costs $2.50. I didn't say, hey, every time you go and get a 4-pack, it would like make my day if you got me a bottle of sparkling water. And so to know that the impact of me not using my voice meant that the relationship breaks down, I'm mad with him, we don't get to experience intimacy, that there's a huge ripple impact of me not having the courage to communicate my truth. And I can pick up little points just like that all over my life, whether it's my CFO yesterday I was like, if I don't call him right now, when he sends me his invoice on Tuesday to pay him, I'm going to feel resentment. I have to clear this up. And I let him know we need to communicate this because it's going to break trust within me if we're going to do more work together. And so I know that if we desire to experience secure attachment in our lives, it requires healthy repair after rupture. But if you don't know that I'm experiencing a rupture, how could we repair it?
Yeah.
And if I know that there's a rupture there, you didn't get me a sparkling water, you called me before a really important client and said it was just going to be a quick 10 minutes and you landed something really big. He doesn't know that. My CFO is like, oh, I just thought it was a normal chat.
Yeah.
He's
For him
oblivious.
it is. He's CFO. He's used to having those conversations.
That's what he said. He goes, oh, Beck, I totally understand. Sorry, I know I jumped a few steps ahead. And he owned it. And because I said to him, these big conversations are actually big for me.
Yeah.
I'm great at marketing, creativity, making money. But these conversations, they're the harder ones. That's why we're doing this work. Could you set me up for some success here? And that will allow me to trust you more because this is big. He didn't know there was rupture until I brought it to him. And so that for me, the awareness precedes choice is look at all the times I abandoned my truth and that created breakdown with past employees, with past partners, with past friendship. Great. What's the new choice now? Oh, I feel something. Oh, he called me and I'm a bit pissed off, irritated, annoyed. Oh, there's rupture here. Does he know? No, he thinks this is a normal Tuesday. Okay. What do I get to do? Send a note. Hey, and addressing it from regulation with the desire to create more connection for both people. CFO has no idea. He wants to continue working together. How can I bring this without projecting at him and making him wrong so that we can continue to walk forward in this relationship together?
And you said, I love that. And you touched on just then at the last bit of why am I making him wrong or how am I making him wrong? Can you speak into that a little bit more around where that concept came from and where you use it?
Yeah, it would be very easy for me to call my CFO and tell him off from almost protecting the self and saying like, you shouldn't have called me then. You did the wrong thing. That was 27 minutes, not 10 minutes. Or a past partner. I think we can all say we've been in a relationship where someone's need hasn't been met. You didn't get me a sparkling water and almost shaming someone into doing what you want them to do shaming someone into doing something, the right thing, is never the right thing. So now with the nervous system work and leadership work I've been doing with one of my mentors, because my pattern is fight. If I feel hurt, even if it's not true, my fight pattern's like, I'm going to destroy this person. It's not healthy.
Yeah. Don't do that.
So she always says, how can you come from curiosity to understand where the other person is coming from when they do the thing? And then how can you create more connection for both people in the conversation? Because shaming them and telling them off, if we have little kids and they've made a mistake, as parents, are we going to shame our children? I wouldn't shame my child. Would I let them know how it made me feel and what another opportunity would be to maybe make a different choice? Yes. Would that be more productive? Yes. Well, as adults, we're all little kids walking around in adult bodies.
Absolutely.
So that's the come from, and with that particular approach.
Yeah, I love that. There's so much there. And I can imagine that life experience and then working with so many different people has led you down the path of what you're doing now.
Yes.
What do you find is like step one for people? Have you got like a process that you lead people through when they see that they're not being themselves and there's something that they have to start doing? You've talked about boundaries. Let's maybe say step 2 in a 3-step process. What is your next kind of point of call with the conversations that you're having consistently with people who are not living the life that they want to live and being the person that they want to be?
Oh, I think a couple of things. Number one, how do I feel about my life? Where do I want my life to go? And getting clear on the gap. That would be if I was someone listening to this right now and I was like, I just want 3 take-home points. I'd be like, question 1, and I'd go to town journaling on that, writing it down. How do I feel, like really honestly, how do I feel about my relationship, my finances, my relationship with myself, my body, my health, my fitness, my wealth, my career, my future, and just being like, honesty is the best policy. What do I really want? And not from like, a little bit better, but from like, what would be a 10 out of 10 in all of those areas, and looking at the gap. And then I always say where the work is in the work that you're avoiding doing. And so I would ask myself, what is it that I'm avoiding? So for me, for a long time, it was the herpes virus. And then for a long time, it was not leaving Perth. So I would look at the one thing that is, there's a book called The One Thing, and the ethos of it is, what is the one thing that if I was to take action on that thing and nothing else, it would make everything else in my life easier and or unimportant. So for me, when it was herpes, once I knocked that domino down, boom, it opened the floodgates for everything else. So I would ask myself, if I was that person, what's the one thing that I'm avoiding? That if I really took aligned, committed action on that one thing, it would make space for all of my dreams and my desires to come alive.
Yeah, I love that. And where is it that you're working? Like, you've done so many things. You've worked through shame, you're being your complete self.
Yeah.
What did that unlock in you that you're like, fuck, I thought I wasn't living in my purpose then or being myself then? Because you're now doing that and you're being yourself. What is it that you've seen that you just didn't even know existed previously?
I think just for a while I felt the power, but I was broke and felt so stuck. So I was like, why do I feel so powerful? And my life is not reflecting that power. And now it's like, oh, she was so right.
Yeah.
That if I took the steps, it wouldn't happen on her timeline. She wanted it faster. But I just have this internal belief that anything that I want is available to me. Anything that I desire is available to me. There is no glass ceiling over my head. There is no income ceiling, relationship ceiling, lifestyle ceiling. Whatever I want, I can go and get. And if I desire to be a leader, great leaders teach others how to do the same thing too.
Yeah, I love that. And relationships as well. So the relationships that you've had, and you're saying that you've instilled so much within yourself and who you are. I can imagine Beck that was in relationships in the past and who's coming into those relationships now. What do you find when it comes to relationships that you're bringing into that, of finding this new version of yourself?
Yeah, I'm bringing a lot of authenticity, radical truth telling from the outset of, this is the desire that I have for my life. It doesn't have to be with you, but just true ownership of the life that I'm calling forward, and no settling of like, oh, well, for the exchange of this engagement right now, maybe that it's just say, no, this is what I know is true for me and true for my life. And I'm going to share that with this person so they can choose do they want to be a part of that? And I want to know that about you as well. So just a lot of very, very honest conversation from the outset, and no denying my desires and no suppressing of any vulnerability or truth to curate or make myself more desirable to the other person. Just, this is who I am. This is the radical truth. You're either here for it or not.
Yeah. And where we got to meet as well, and like touching on all of those things, it's a journey with relationships, right? Because it's not just, and like you said, your relationships with females would severed because of your past. You couldn't trust that. With men in your past, you couldn't necessarily trust that. So you've done so much work around that personal development, and I know that going down that path of spirituality or connecting with something far bigger than yourself, that can be a world in itself. You know what I mean? There can be spiritual bypassing. There can be a lot of things that come from that spiritual world, and there's so many things that exist in that. It can be hard to hear yourself and hear your own intuition in that realm sometimes as well. From being on that part of the journey and then where you are now, what are some of the things that you've gone, you sometimes listen to your intuition like it's a connection to God and a connection to yourself, and sometimes you hear things and you think, who the fuck was that? And it's, the world or society that's instilling that in you. How have you kind of tapped into knowing the difference, or is there a tool that you use or a practice that you use to know whether it's been something that's influenced you or you've taken on board that isn't really you and something that is really?
I'm not largely externally influenced, but and I pray every day. I welcome God into my heart every morning. And when I'm feeling really stuck, I always am just like, God, this is our time, baby. I need some support. Hello, it is me, your problem child again. Just got a few questions. For me, do you know what I found interesting about the past 12 months? I've really stepped into my woman, my desires, what I'm creating for my life. And this readiness for partnership has hit. And this clarity on the kind of man that he is, the values that he holds, the integrity that he leads with, the kind of a career that he has, all of that has really landed for me, and I've never felt ready before. And so in that process, I've met some, people say, oh, dating statistics and all those things aren't working in your favor when you're so specific. But I also trust that my man already has my name handwritten on his soul and vice versa. But in that journey, I've met some I know that man isn't every man. And in that journey, I've met some really beautiful men that if I was to connect with my intuition, there was some certain moments where I knew that's not him, but for the exchange of the readiness, I would ignore and it wasn't a red flag because it wasn't like something, it was just a sign.
He's for someone.
Yes.
He's not for you.
Yes. It was just a sign that he was not for me, that I ignored in the exchange and abandoned in exchange for the readiness that I was feeling. And they're like, oh, but, we could maybe work through that piece because I'm ready now, and he's got the career and he's got the lifestyle and he's got the freedom and this would just work. If it could just work, this could be so great. And so that's not the external, that was coming from internal, and just being able to separate from what I know to the part of me that's anxious and wants to grab when the almost him shows up. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah.
Girl. You are talking because, even speaking about that, when you're ready, a lot of the time, or when you're ready, you forget that courting is really important, that time is on your side, that time it will be worth dating for 6 months and not actually going much further is worth that 6 months instead of being in a relationship for that amount of time. And it's never a waste because you always grow and learn from somebody. But I think that's one thing that I've learned and resonates with what you were saying is that there is no rush, and actually you get to choose. And I say this from the side of a relationship where I'm single. Oh, I'm a single lady. You know what I mean? And one day we're going to sit here and be like, aren't we so glad we waited?
Yes.
And this man who's exceptional and amazing, and all the guys that preceded that were also exceptional and amazing but weren't your person, makes a difference. And you're so glad that you did that. Touching on what you were speaking about there, and the world has changed. Like we're 30-something, nearly 40-something in the world. No. I am, sorry.
37, thank you.
I'm 39. And so it's like it's a whole different world, and there's so much perception and what's the word, like judgment around being a single person
Right.
in that age, right? And gender roles have changed in the world. And I know I saw on your social media that you commented on, speaking about the gender roles that come up on every single podcast. It's not just this one particular podcast, but you had an opinion around that, around gender roles and how the world that we live in now, we've gone from our parents or our grandparents' era where there were clear gender roles. This is what the woman did, this is what the man did, and it was clear. Then the world has kind of changed where we have been not given and handed to us, but feminism and fighting for things has meant that women have the ability to have a choice to go to work. And on this particular podcast, he was speaking about, and you know what? We'll put it up and we're going to play it. But you spoke around how you felt about that and how jarring that opinion can be in the world. Can you touch on it? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do know what you're talking about. So Chris's podcast, a week prior or a few days prior, I put up a post, and it's probably one of my most engaged with posts, where I was talking about providership. I was talking about my $1 million year and still not desiring to be the provider in my relationship. And I'm not talking about the amount. I even wrote that specifically in there. I'm talking about the energy. I desire to bring my generosity and my creativity, but I value traditional gender roles. So he's going to come and say, do it because you love it, baby, not because you have to. Because I'm working with a lot of women who are our age, who have hustled their whole life, who are overworked, who are tired, who are earning the money and are like, fuck, I'm doing this because I have to. I like what I do, but also I have to do what I do too. And women who come to me, they want to put it down. I want to put it down. I'll keep doing what I do. I love what I do. But it would be just such a different energetic for him to step in and say, do it because you love it, not because you have to. So I put that post up. And then Chris's thing went viral about providership. Now, my opinion of, I was seeing it through the lens of the women who I work with. So when you reference quite a few times throughout this podcast, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of judgment. I don't personally experience that because I work with thousands of women who share all the same things all the time. So I'm like, oh, this is just, we all feel this way.
Yeah.
It's
normal.
It's so
100%.
normal.
Yeah. You surround yourself with what becomes normal.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so my lens view of how I heard what Chris said was, number one, I saw him as a 22-year-old that he is. And a 22-year-old can only communicate from their 22-year-old young lens. And so I saw a young man who is in his early young prince era who would love to step into king when he's older and more mature. And the king does provide for his kingdom and does create space for the woman to be in her creativity and give her gifts if she desires to and not work if she doesn't want to. So I was very much in alignment with what he shared. Maybe he could have changed how he said it, but he's 22 years old. So that, for me personally, I've forgotten what the question is now, like my opinion on the gender role. For me, it's traditional. And I also think there's not one way to relate. We're all some people like to split things 50-50. Some women love to be the breadwinner. I just know, and it's probably largely based on the money trauma from my childhood, it makes me feel very, very unsafe when the man cannot step into his king when it comes to providership. It puts so much fear through my body that I can't relax. And so that kind of relationship dynamic will never work for me.
And it's interesting being able and comfortable enough and eloquent enough. And what I love about you is being able to state how you feel about it, tap into actually where that's coming from and why, and be able to showcase why that's important. Because I think with that particular podcast, there were so many things that I agreed with. And then towards the end of it, he said, where it was more of a forceful kind of thing. So what's hard about stating how you feel about something, having an opinion, speaking your truth, is you're not going to get it right all the time. It just goes back to everything that we were saying, because there's so much merit to what he said. And I agree, But
also someone could be listening to this podcast right now and be like, oh, I love Beck and Becky. Didn't really align on a couple of things that they said.
Yeah.
And, people want to take up more space in the world, and then you share a truth and next minute you're misogynistic and cancel.
Yep.
And God, I was just like, let that 22-year-old young man who's doing something and trying, Like, give him some space to be 22. If he was
Do you-
32,
Different.
like if I had a 32-year-old man telling me I could go for a hot girl walk, I'd be like, brother, you're 32. But
Yeah.
he's 22, so he lives in the hot girl walk generation.
Yeah. And there would have been lessons for him.
Yes.
Do you feel like it comes from, for a 20-year-old young man, do you feel like it comes from, and we touched on it, I find that the world is an interesting place, and people finding their space in it and their place in it can be challenging because everybody's so different. For young men, and him speaking about that, he's like, there is a problem that I can see and here is how we fix it. Where do you think it comes from, insecurity and the lack of, clarity that young men have when it comes to what they're here for, what they're providing for, how they show up in a relationship? How much of it do you think came from that?
I mean, I can't talk on it not being a young man, but I had a male guest on my podcast recently who I really respect, and he spoke a lot about there not being enough mentorship and leadership for young men in the world of inspiring men, gracious men, in integrity men, leading those men. Apparently years ago, and again, I haven't done a lot of study on men's rites of passage, but years ago men would have to go through different initiations to step into their manhood. And now in the Western world, they're not going through that. And so that may be the thing that is lacking. And so I personally don't have an opinion on their insecurities. I think let a 22-year-old have their journey, but I do think that there is a lack of men's initiation. And I saw a lot of men online scolding Chris who talk about healthy masculinity online, like their whole brand is around healthy masculinity. And I was just looking at that as like, if you're the great uncle or the father of this 22-year-old young man, I don't think that your remedy for what he said was not a version, in my opinion, of healthy masculinity.
100%.
A healthy masculine would guide and empower and give constructive call forward type feedback, but wouldn't, again, shame that man into doing what they think that he should have done or said. Also shaming someone into an apology or ownership. We can't do that either, my opinion. And so I just think there's a lack of leadership for men, healthy leadership, truly in integrity, zero ego leadership.
Yeah. And and I agree. It's an interesting place, and definitely doing the work, going up on site and having those conversations. I asked that question because I can see that there is underrepresented, like even in a lot of the conversations that we've had today, you touched on the herpes virus and we were speaking about it beforehand, where there's even an underrepresentation of men being able to come forward if maybe it's not that particular virus, but it's something else where there's underrepresentation, where women tend to talk. So coaches pop up to be able to help young women, but there can be a lack of that, like you said, for young men. Have you found that is there anybody that people can kind of speak to? Is there somebody who's doing it well, or is there advice from you to that, or is there something that you can touch on and speak to around that?
I mean, I think there will always be a community somewhere if you're willing to look and find your people. And how far are you willing to go to find your leader or find your community of people? Like, my teachers ended up being in Austin, Texas, and I'm currently in the process of applying for my American visa to move right now. And
green card.
Let's go, baby. Entrepreneur visa, 01. But there is someone that has gone through what you're moving through. And I get messages from men all the time. I know you speak to women. I know your branding is pink, but I really resonate with what you say. And then men asking, do you know anyone that talks the way that you do, but is a man who I could speak to? And men really are underrepresented. And I think there's definitely a normality around what we do, what we say, how we express online. Jetty Azuma is a man that I had on my podcast, and I've had so many men message me and say thank you for that particular episode. Preston Smiles, they're two men that I really, like, kind of big brother men in my life that I really adore, idolize, respect, admire, and really trust. And so I think when it comes to finding leadership, I would say go and find someone who looks like you, sounds like you, has similar values to you. So when I saw Preston, I saw someone very expressed. He used to swear a lot. He dresses crazy. He dances. He's just like, has a beautiful wife, 4 children, same family values as me. So I believe that there is a teacher out there for everyone. and look for the person who holds the values that you hold for your life and go and learn from them.
Yeah, I love that. And that's the interesting thing, and such a gift that you're bringing back to Perth. You have no obligation to come back and impart your wisdom.
I do, my mum and dad.
Yeah, you do. Well, I know. And bless
my sister
them.
and my sister's dog.
Yeah. But you have no obligation to impart the wisdom or the things that you've learned, or to be in the firing line for a lot of the things that you've had to experience. But you do. And I appreciate and I love that about you, that you could really just learn and grow and go and expand and then never share it with anybody else, but you choose to because you clearly give a shit about people. Where did that come from? Why do you give so much of a shit about people and helping the world be a better place?
Yeah, do you know what? I was a personal trainer when I was from 21, and I always knew that I have such an activating energy that if I tell someone I believe in them, they believe in themselves and they do the hard thing. And I love it. I love seeing someone feel like I can only get to here, and then I say, no, but you can. And I hold the space for them, whether it used to be physically, now it's emotionally and mentally. I love seeing someone break through that glass ceiling and call them forward into a bigger vision and a better life. And I think when I was still in my wounding and in a lot of pain and hurt, I wanted a really successful life so I could sit in my castle and wave at everyone, let everyone know about the greatness that I achieved for myself. And it gets to a point where I was like, that would be a really lonely castle. Just like sitting up there waving at everyone saying, look how great I am, all you down there. And now it's like, hold on, if I can support everyone to win too, I'm really winning. Like everything in my life's just going to get better. And then I've got a ton of people that I love in my castle, our castle, winning with me. And that's a great thing. I've just naturally always had an activating energy, but that I believe that community is an invaluable currency. And if you know how to win and you can teach others to too, God, what a fulfilling life.
Yeah. Watching your journey has been great. I know I've seen you in so many different parts. You, not that it fucking matters what I think or say or anything anyway, but I know there's been parts of it where it's been uncomfortable for you, and you've, you know, like even having the conversation when we caught up in Bali, you know, we accidentally caught up. We came across each other and you were talking about how you've softened and how you've settled into yourself, and I can so see that. You know what I mean? And not that, again, that it matters, but
I love a good compliment.
Yeah, it's just radiating, and I'm so excited because if this is now, like what's coming, you know, I can't wait.
This is me before babies, not in love. Like I'm going to be out of control. I can't wait.
I can't wait for the wedding. Like I'll decide what dress I'm going to wear. I just invited myself to
I can't wait for the sex.
Well, I won't be there for that. So, like, you know, maybe in a past life, but I'm so excited for you, and I'm stoked that you made time to be able to be here. I always say thank you so much for all the fuckery that you've been through, for the experiences that you've had, the discomfort that you had to feel in high school and going through those things with a partner, but also being willing to be on the journey to get to the other side and be who you are now and share that with the world. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I'm so happy with it. It worked out really well today, and I'm stoked. It's just, you're just shining.
Thank you so much.
Yay. If you've enjoyed today's episode, you've taken something away, maybe for yourself or somebody else, I would love for you to share, and I'd love to hear from you. We are always keen on having conversations that people want to have and tackling those really hard subjects. So reach out. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for joining me on the Resource Podcast, where we are making a ripple effect and making massive waves.